Previously, I learned handstands on the ground in 156 days. I thought I was done with handstands, but BaseBlock baited me with a sponsorship to make a video of learning the handstand on their Parallettes, which is called the Strong Blocks. After a quick research, it seems that YouTube experts unanimously agree that handstand on Parallettes is easier than handstand on the ground.
For beginners especially, it will be easier to balance a handstand on Parallettes than it will be on the floor.
It is much easier to balance on the Parallettes than it is to balance on the ground.
Therefore, I took the bait and decided to learn the handstand on Parallettes until I could hold it for 10 seconds. When I first tried it out on day 1, I immediately discovered that YouTube experts lied to me. Handstands on Parallettes are significantly harder than handstands on the ground for 2 reasons. First, balancing is significantly harder. When doing a handstand on the ground, I can balance between my fingertips and my palms. But when doing a handstand on Parallettes, the room for balance suddenly shrinks more than half because I can only balance between the leftmost side and the rightmost side of my palms. Second, kicking up is significantly harder due to the elevation. It might not appear so, but it actually makes it a lot harder. Unlike pressing to handstand, which is all about strength, kicking up to handstand requires precision, which means the increased difficulty of the kick up makes the already low percentage kick up even more low percentage. On top of these 2 reasons, my palms felt painful when I gripped the bars pushing. I pull with all kinds of grip all the time while rock climbing, but pushing while gripping the bars was completely new to me. My palms couldn't help feeling painful when the bars sank into my flesh. I tried to push through the palm pain, but I quickly realized that my body automatically redirected my grip to the radial deviation to minimize pain. I knew I would never be able to balance if I couldn't be pain-free in the neutral grip position. I decided to set an intermediate goal, which was to L-sit on the Parallettes for 20 seconds pain-free. At first, I couldn't even lift my legs up due to the pain, but after working on it for 40 days, eventually I was able to L-sit on the Parallettes for 20 seconds. I started practicing kicking up to handstand. I applied all the techniques I knew for holding a handstand on the ground. But for some reason, I just couldn't balance myself for even 2 seconds. The room for balance is just too small. I practiced, and practiced. I practiced so much to the point that the wall broke because of my kick-ups, and I had to cover it up and switch to a different location to practice. A few months flew by, and I just couldn't balance despite all the hard work I put in. One day, I was scrolling through Facebook randomly, and I saw my brother showcasing himself doing a press handstand. I know my brother opened up the first ever acro yoga studio in my home country a few years ago, and he is extremely good at it and has been teaching classes since then, but I had no idea that he also worked on handstands. I decided to reach out to him for advice. What are the keys to handstand on Parallettes? Can you give us a few tips?
If you are people who come from the ground handstand, trying forward grip will be more natural for you. If you are gripping like this, you will be totally on your wrist. But we use this kind of grip, forward grip. If this is a bar, the bar will counter from the corner of the palm and towards the lower part of the finger. So by grabbing like this, you can actually push like this. It's more similar like pushing on the ground doing a handstand. When you are doing handstand on the ground, try not to grip with your finger. When we are doing like flat ground handstand, we grip the finger quite a lot. When you are doing it, try to relax the finger, not using any force on the finger, and then just place your hands there. So you have to use your shoulder and your elbow to balance. And then when you come back to parallel bar, it will be more similar because you are not using your finger that much. So you will be able to use more of your shoulder and elbow to balance in the parallel bar.
When you said use our elbows and then shoulders to help balance, can you elaborate a little bit more on what that means?
So I will talk about the elbow first. If you want to do elbow balance, make sure you are comfortable in bending the elbow. If you bend the elbow and you hit the ground, then don't do this kind of balance. So when you bend your elbow, actually it will change the central weight. And usually when you jump not enough, you can use bending the elbow to catch your central weight and then get yourself back. For the shoulder part, is like how much planche you do. If your shoulder is leaning forward, we call it planche. When doing planche, it will create more pressure on the wrist because you are bending your wrist even more. When you are doing more planche, the more planche you do, the more balancing zone you got. Jumping in handstand is actually very important. So you want to measure every jump and you want to eventually know like how much jump you need to do. So it's not like jumping 100% every time super randomly and then see if I will hit the point. You want to jump step by step and then measure every jump and trying to close up how much jump you need in doing a parallel jump. I think that's the few like the tips or the key I will give to people who started from ground handstand and eventually want to transit it to parallel bar handstand.
After the call with my brother, I immediately started gripping the bar with a false grip. I couldn't balance successfully right away, but it felt a lot more possible. I also started to practice handstands on the ground without using the fingers. This little change makes balancing on the ground a lot harder, and is very counterintuitive to unlearn balancing with the fingers and instead learn to balance with the elbows and shoulders. However, this feels like a good intermediate progression to aim for, since the difficulty is between a handstand on parallettes itself and a handstand on the ground using fingers. On day 152, I was able to balance for 5 seconds for the first time ever using the wall as a crutch. For the next few sessions, I was able to consistently balance myself with the help of the wall. At this point, I decided to rush it and started attempting to do it without the wall despite not having a successful attempt in front of the wall. In my mind, I was thinking, all I need is to get lucky once and I will be done with this video. This turned out to be a gigantic mistake. I trained without the wall for multiple sessions and I did not have enough strength and skills to get lucky even once. Most of the time, I failed to balance myself, and my best attempt from all these was only a 4-second hold. Additionally, my body reacted differently because I had to be mentally prepared for a fall. When I finally admitted the defeat and went back to practice in front of the wall, my body forgot how to balance itself, and it took me 15 days to finally find my balance again. I decided to get real and tell myself to have at least one successful attempt with the wall before any practicing without the wall. I continued to practice, and practice. The more I practiced, the more I got used to balancing with my elbows and shoulders. On day 265, I finally successfully balanced myself for 10 seconds in front of the wall but without using the wall. As you can see how I corrected my balance with my elbows and shoulders. It wouldn't have been possible if I had just relied on my fingers and wrists. I decided to take it really slow and practice in front of the wall for a few more sessions to make sure that a successful 10-second balance without using the wall wasn't a fluke. After that, I started to practice without the wall. Even though I still had to be mentally prepared for a fall, I felt so much more control this time. After a few more sessions, on day 308, this happened.
Yes! Ha! I got it! That has to be it! Woo! Let me check how many seconds that is, guys!
Thanks for watching. And guys, if you happen to understand Mandarin, definitely check out my brother's channel. His channel has a lot of theory and breakdown on bodyweight exercises and flexibility work. So definitely check it out. I also want to thank Base Blocks for sponsoring this video. If you're interested in starting your handstand on parallettes journey, make sure to click the link in the video description below and use the coupon code GEEK to purchase Strong Blocks with 10% off. Strong Blocks is multifunctional. It can be used as parallettes and it can also be used as a yoga block. I highly recommend you get one. Again, make sure to click the link in the video description below. See you in the next video.